I was 32 years old when my mother stood up at Sunday dinner and destroyed any illusion I had left about my family. We were all gathered around the dining table in my parents' house in suburban Connecticut. My sister Stephanie sat across from me, glowing in her new promotion. Mom raised her wine glass and said those words that changed everything. "Your sister has always been the provider of this family." Everyone clapped. I leaned back and smiled. Perfect. Then she can handle the $9,700 credit card balance she racked up on my account. Before we dive into what happened next, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever dealt with family drama involving money, hit that like button. Subscribe, because this story takes turns you will not see coming. Trust me, you need to hear how this ends. The silence that followed my statement was deafening. Forks stopped midair. My father Donald froze with his knife cutting into the roast beef. My fiancée Amanda looked at me with wide eyes. Stephanie's husband Greg set down his water glass so hard it rattled against the plate. Then Stephanie's face transformed. Her expression of shocked surprise melted into something else. Hurt. Betrayal. Her eyes filled with tears, and her voice shook when she spoke. "Blair, how could you? How could you bring this up here, now, at my celebration dinner?" I opened my mouth to respond, but she kept going. Her voice grew stronger, more confident, as if she were the wounded party. "You told me 2 years ago I could use that card for emergencies. When Greg lost his job, you said family helps family. You said not to worry about paying you back right away." My jaw dropped. That was a complete fabrication. I never gave her permission to use my credit card. Not once. Not ever. Mom's face hardened. "Blair Edward Stewart, I cannot believe you would embarrass your sister like this at her celebration dinner. This is incredibly inappropriate." Dad set down his silverware with deliberate care. "Son, we do not discuss money at the dinner table, and we certainly do not keep score with family." I tried to explain. "I discovered the charges 6 months ago when I was reviewing my statement. Purchases at stores I had never been to. Luxury handbags from a boutique in Stamford. Spa treatments at a resort in Greenwich. Vacation bookings to Miami Beach." When I confronted Stephanie privately, she begged me not to tell anyone. She promised she would pay me back soon. She said it would devastate Mom and Dad if they knew. Stephanie stood up from the table. Tears were streaming down her face now. She was good. Really good. "I have been under so much stress. The new position, the long hours, trying to keep our household together, while Greg was job hunting. I thought you understood, Blair. I thought we had an understanding as siblings." Greg stood up too, his face red. "You have always been jealous of Stephanie. Always. She gets the promotion, and you cannot handle it, so you pull this stunt to steal her spotlight." Amanda touched my arm. Her voice was quiet, meant only for me, but I could hear the doubt in it. "Blair, why didn't you mention this to me before? We are supposed to be getting married. This seems like something I should have known about." That stung worse than anything my parents or sister had said. My own fiancé questioning me. I laid out the facts as calmly as I could. "I have paid Mom and Dad's mortgage for 3 years. $950 every single month. That is $34,200. I paid for Dad's cardiac procedure last year when insurance did not cover it all. $4,200. I lent Stephanie $5,000 3 years ago when she wanted to start her consulting business. She never paid back a single cent." Donald waved his hand dismissively. "Family helps family. We do not keep a ledger. That is what makes us different from other families. We are there for each other. But when I need you to be there for me," I wanted to say, "when I need you to believe me, where are you?" Martha pointed toward the door. "I think you should leave, Blair. You have upset everyone. Stephanie is having anxiety because of your accusations. Maybe you should go home and think about what really matters. Family. Loyalty. Not money." Amanda gathered her purse. Her movements were stiff, uncomfortable. She did not look at me as we walked to the car. The drive back to our apartment in West Hartford was silent. When we got inside, she finally spoke. Why would Stephanie lie about something like that? What does she gain? I did not have a good answer, at least not one that made sense. What I did know was that my family had chosen her story over mine without hesitation. My own parents had thrown me out of their house. My fiancé doubted me, and Stephanie sat there crying, collecting sympathy like she was the victim. That night I could not sleep. I pulled up my credit card statements on my laptop and went through them line by line. The charges had started exactly 18 months ago. I noticed something I had missed before. The first charge appeared 1 week after I had given Stephanie my old iPhone. I had upgraded to a newer model, and her phone had broken, so I gave her my old one. She said she would factory reset it and give it to Greg. What if she had not reset it right away? What if she had cloned my messaging app first? Created fake conversations between us where I supposedly gave her permission, then taken screenshots before wiping the phone. It seemed paranoid, elaborate, but the timing matched perfectly. I wanted to call her, demand answers, but I knew she would not tell me the truth. Not now, not when she had Mom and Dad and even Amanda questioning my version of events. I was the one telling the truth, but somehow I had become the villain in my own story. 3 days passed before Amanda spoke to me about anything other than basic household logistics. On Wednesday evening, I came home from work to find her sitting at our kitchen table, her laptop open in front of her, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Those 4 words never led anywhere good. She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen were screenshots, text message conversations, between me and Stephanie. Except I had never sent these messages. The conversation showed me telling Stephanie she could use my credit card whenever she needed. That family came first, that she should not worry about paying me back quickly. "Take your time." One message read, "I know things are tight with Greg between jobs." I stared at the screen. The messages looked real. They had my phone number. They were in the same blue text bubbles I used. They even sounded like something I might say. The phrasing and word choice were close to my usual style, but I had never written them. I grabbed my phone and opened my message history with Stephanie. I scrolled back 18 months. These messages were not there. Our actual conversation history showed nothing about credit cards, nothing about permission. "Amanda, these are fake. I never sent these. Look at my phone. They are not in my actual messages." She looked, but I could see the skepticism in her eyes. "Blair, how would she fake messages that look exactly like they came from your phone? The number matches. The interface is identical." "I don't know, but I am telling you, I never sent these." She closed the laptop. "Stephanie sent these to me this morning. She said she was hesitant to share them because she did not want to hurt our relationship, but she felt she had to defend herself after you accused her at dinner." "Of course she did. Of course she had a perfectly timed explanation." "Think about it," Amanda said. "Why would your sister go through this elaborate scheme? What is she getting out of this?" $9,700, I said. "That is what she is getting." But Amanda shook her head. "She makes good money at her job. She just got promoted. Why would she need to steal from you?" I could not answer that. Not in a way that made sense. That night I lay awake thinking about that old phone. Stephanie had kept it for almost a week before giving it to Greg. She said she was transferring her photos and contacts. What if she had been doing something else? What if she had access to my messaging app during that time? Could she have created fake conversations and saved screenshots? I researched it online. Turns out it was possible. There were apps that could create realistic-looking text message screenshots. And if she had access to my actual messaging app for even a few days, she could have studied my writing style, the way I phrased things, the words I commonly used. The next morning I called my credit card company. The customer service representative listened to my explanation, and agreed to open a fraud investigation, but she warned me it would take 60 to 90 days. In the meantime, I was responsible for the minimum payments, $275 per month on debt I did not create. That same day, I received an email from Mom. The subject line was simply, "Disappointed. Blair." The email began, "Your father and I are deeply hurt by your behavior at Sunday dinner. Stephanie is devastated. She has been having anxiety attacks because her own brother called her a thief in front of the entire family. We raised you better than this. Your sister has always been sensitive. You are the strong one. You can handle losing some money. She cannot handle being accused of something so terrible by someone she loves and trusts. We need you to drop this credit card dispute. We need you to apologize to your sister. Until you do, you are not welcome at family gatherings. We hope you will come to your senses soon." I read the email 3 times. Each time I felt like I was reading about a different person. Someone who was cruel and petty and vindictive. That was not who I was. At least, I did not think it was. I called Dad. Maybe he would be more reasonable one-on-one, without Mom and Stephanie there to influence him. He answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was cold. "What do you want, Blair? I want you to believe me. I want you to trust that I would not lie about something like this." There was a long pause. Then he sighed. "Your sister has always been the sensitive one in this family. She takes things hard. You are tougher. You always have been. Sometimes the strong ones have to sacrifice for the ones who are more fragile. That is what family means. So I am supposed to sacrifice $9,700 and my reputation because Stephanie is sensitive? You are supposed to understand that some things matter more than money. Your sister's well-being, family unity. Those things are worth far more than any credit card balance." After I hung up, I realized what was happening. My parents had decided who to believe, and it was not me. It did not matter what evidence I presented. It did not matter that their logic made no sense. They had chosen Stephanie's version of reality, and I was expected to go along with it. Amanda told me that evening that she needed space. She was going to stay with her sister Rachel for a few days, just to think, to process everything. She packed a bag. She did not take her engagement ring off, but she did not look at me when she left either. I sat alone in our apartment, surrounded by credit card statements and phone records and that email from Mom. For the first time, I wondered if maybe I should just give up, declare bankruptcy, accept the loss, walk away from my family, and start over somewhere else. Then my phone buzzed with a new email. The sender was unknown. The subject line read, "I know what your sister did." The email from Caroline Hughes changed everything. She explained that she had been Stephanie's business partner 4 years ago. They had started a boutique consulting firm together. For 6 months, everything seemed fine. Then Caroline started noticing irregularities, money missing from their business account, charges on their company credit card that she had not authorized. When she confronted Stephanie, my sister had explanations for everything: misunderstandings, accounting errors, necessary business expenses that Caroline had apparently forgotten approving. But the irregularities kept happening. Caroline hired a forensic accountant. That was when she discovered Stephanie had been systematically stealing from the business, using company funds for personal purchases, opening credit lines in the business name, and using them for vacations and luxury goods. By the time Caroline proved it, Stephanie had dissolved the partnership and moved on. Caroline was left with $30,000 in business debt and a destroyed credit score. Caroline attached documents to her email. Police reports she had filed that went nowhere because Stephanie claimed everything was a misunderstanding. Bank statements showing fraudulent transfers. Emails where Stephanie promised to make things right, but never did. I called Caroline immediately. We talked for 2 hours. She described Stephanie's methodology in chilling detail. My sister targeted people who trusted her. She slowly escalated the financial exploitation. She created fake evidence to cover her tracks. Then she isolated her victims from their support networks by painting them as the aggressors. Caroline's voice was tired when she said, "I saw the news article about your sister's promotion. When I searched for more information about her, I found public records about a restraining order case with your name. I recognized the pattern immediately. Your sister is not going to stop with credit cards, Blair. You need to check everything. Your credit report, your parents' estate planning, anything she might have access to." After we hung up, I ordered a comprehensive credit report. It arrived 2 days later. I opened it with shaking hands. The nightmare was worse than I imagined. 5 unauthorized accounts had been opened in my name over the past 18 months. 2 department store credit cards, maxed out at $6,000 each. 1 personal loan for $15,000. Another credit card with a $9,000 balance. Multiple late payments reported on accounts I did not even know existed. Total fraudulent debt, $43,700, plus the original $9,700 on my legitimate card. $53,400 total. My credit score had dropped from 740 to 530. I was financially destroyed. Every account had the same pattern. My correct social security number, my correct birth date, my correct address, but a different contact phone number, a number I did not recognize. I called it. Stephanie answered. I could barely get words out. "What have you done?" She hung up immediately. I called back. The line went straight to voicemail. I called again. She had blocked me. I drove to her house in Fairfield. A nice colonial with a 2-car garage and a manicured lawn. The house she and Greg had bought 6 months ago. I wondered now how they had afforded it. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I knocked. Nothing. But I saw movement behind the curtains. Someone peeking out. She was home. She just was not going to face me. That evening I went to the West Hartford police station and filed a report. The detective who took my statement was a woman named Sarah Morrison. She had tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to everything, looked at my documentation, then she leaned back in her chair and said what I did not want to hear. "Identity theft cases within families are complicated. She will claim you gave her permission. It becomes he said, she said. Do you have proof you did not authorize her to use your information?" I stared at her. "How do you prove a negative? How do you prove you did not do something?" Detective Morrison nodded slowly. "Exactly. That is the problem with these cases. Unless we catch her in the act or she confesses, it is very difficult to prosecute. My advice is to freeze your credit immediately. Close all the fraudulent accounts. Document everything. But I am going to be honest with you. The chances of criminal charges sticking are slim." I left the police station feeling more hopeless than when I had arrived. Amanda came back to the apartment that night to pick up more clothes. She had been staying with Rachel for almost a week. When I told her about the credit report, about the $43,700 in fraudulent debt, she sat down hard on our couch. "Blair, how did you not notice this? How could someone open 5 accounts in your name without you knowing?" I felt defensive, but I tried to stay calm. I checked my legitimate accounts. I monitor those statements. But I was not checking my overall credit, because I never thought I needed to. I never imagined someone in my own family would do this. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "We were supposed to close on a house next month. We have been saving for 2 years. What happens now?" I did not have an answer. With my credit destroyed, no bank would approve us for a mortgage. She left that night with 2 large suitcases. At the door, she turned back. She pulled off her engagement ring and set it carefully on the kitchen counter. "I need time," she said. "I do not know how much time. But I cannot do this right now. I cannot plan a future when everything feels like it is falling apart." After she left, I sat alone in the apartment we had picked out together. the place where we had planned to stay for just a couple more years before buying our dream home, before starting a family. Stephanie had not just stolen my money, she had stolen my future. 5 days after I filed the police report, a process server knocked on my apartment door. He handed me a thick envelope of legal documents. Stephanie had filed for a temporary restraining order against me. I read through the petition in disbelief. She claimed I had been harassing her, sending threatening text messages, showing up at her house uninvited, stalking her at her workplace. The petition included screenshots of messages I supposedly sent, telling her I would ruin her life and make her pay for what she had done. I grabbed my phone and checked my message history. Nothing. These messages did not exist in my phone. Just like the messages she had shown Amanda, these were fabricated. But they looked real. They had my number. They had timestamps. They even sounded like something an angry person might write. The temporary restraining order was in effect immediately. I had to stay at least 500 feet away from Stephanie Gregg and their home. A hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks, out to determine if the order would become permanent. I called the attorney Caroline Hughes had recommended, a man named James Parker who specialized in financial fraud cases. He looked over the restraining order documents and shook his head. This is part of her strategy. She is isolating you, making you look like the aggressor. If you are the one with a restraining order against you, who is the jury going to believe? The frightened sister or the threatening brother? The hearing is in 2 weeks, I said. What do we do until then? We build your case, James said. We gather evidence. We prove she is the one defrauding you, not the other way around. But in the meantime, you have to be very careful. Do not contact her. Do not go near her house. Do not give her any ammunition to use against you. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Dad. His voice was colder than I had ever heard it. Blair, you need to take a leave of absence from the firm. I work at Stewart & Associates, the accounting firm Dad founded 32 years ago. I have been there for 8 years. I am a senior accountant. I bring in major clients. The firm is my career. What are you talking about? I asked. A client saw the restraining order filing. It is public record. They called me with concerns. We cannot have this kind of drama affecting the business. Take a month off, unpaid, until this situation resolves. I felt like the ground was disappearing beneath my feet. Dad, I am the victim here. Stephanie is the one who committed fraud. She is the one who filed a false restraining order. Why am I being punished? The optics are bad, he said simply. You are accused of harassing your sister. Whether it is true or not does not matter right now. What matters is how it looks. We have a reputation to protect. What about my reputation? What about the truth? Take the month off, Blair. We will revisit the situation after your hearing. He hung up before I could respond. I was now suspended from my job. No income, mounting debt, legal fees piling up. My savings were draining fast just to cover minimum payments on debts I did not create. That afternoon, Amanda called. Her voice was tight with stress. Blair, your mother called my mom. She told her about the restraining order. My whole family knows now. They are asking me if you really threatened Stephanie, if I am safe around you. Amanda, you know me. You know I would never threaten anyone. There was a long pause. That is what I thought. But Blair, there is so much evidence against you. The text messages, the credit cards she says you gave her permission to use. Now threatening messages and a restraining order. Either you are lying to me about all of this, or your sister is some kind of criminal mastermind. Which is more likely? I could not answer. When I stayed silent, she continued, I want to believe you. But I do not know what to believe anymore. Everything is so confusing. I need more time to figure this out. After she hung up, I sat in my empty apartment and took stock of my situation. I was suspended from work without pay. My credit was destroyed. I had $53,400 in debt, most of it fraudulent. I was facing a restraining order hearing in less than 2 weeks. My fiancée had left me. My parents had cut me off. My entire family thought I was a liar and a threat. Stephanie had systematically dismantled my life piece by piece and somehow made herself look like the victim in the process. For the first time, I seriously considered just giving up, filing bankruptcy, moving to another state, starting completely over where no one knew my name or my story. Then my laptop chimed with a new email notification. The sender was unknown. The subject line read, "I know what your sister did to you, and I know what she is planning next." I opened it. The message was from Caroline Hughes again. "Blair, I have been doing some digging. You need to check your parents' estate planning. I think Stephanie has been manipulating their will. Also, and this is going to sound crazy, but check if she has taken out any insurance policies on you. This is what predators do. They position themselves to benefit from your destruction. Please be careful. She is more dangerous than you realize." I stared at the screen. Insurance policies? That seemed too paranoid, too extreme. But then again, everything Stephanie had done seemed extreme when I first discovered it, and she had proven herself capable of far more than I ever imagined. I forwarded the email to James Parker with a simple message. "Can you help me investigate this?" His response came back within an hour. "Already on it. I am hiring a private investigator. We need to know exactly what your sister has been up to." I did not sleep that night. I kept thinking about Caroline's warning. She is more dangerous than you realize. What else had Stephanie done that I did not know about yet? And how much worse could this situation possibly get? James Parker hired a private investigator named Thomas Wright. Within 1 week, Thomas uncovered information that made my blood run cold. He came to my apartment with a thick folder of documents and a grim expression. "We need to talk about what I found." Thomas laid out the evidence on my kitchen table. First was a copy of my parents' will, or rather, the new version they had signed 6 months ago. The previous will split everything evenly between Stephanie and me. The estate was worth approximately $800,000. Under the old will, we each would have received $400,000. The new will was different. Stephanie was now the primary executor with full decision-making authority, and the split was no longer equal. She would receive 60% of the estate, $480,000. I would get 40%, $320,000. My parents had essentially cut me out of $160,000 of my inheritance. Why would they do that? I asked. Thomas pulled out another document. An email chain between Stephanie and your mother. Your sister has been systematically poisoning your relationship with your parents. Look at this. The emails showed Stephanie sending Martha fake evidence of my supposed financial irresponsibility. Doctored bank statements showing overdrafts and bounced checks. Fabricated credit card bills with charges at casinos and bars. Screenshots of fake emails where I supposedly asked Mom and Dad for money and got angry when they refused. She convinced them you have a gambling problem, Thomas said. She told them you are financially unstable and cannot be trusted with a large inheritance. She suggested they change the will to protect you from yourself. I felt sick. My own sister had been running a campaign to destroy my reputation with my parents for months, and it had worked. That is not even the worst part, Thomas said. He pulled out another document. This is a life insurance policy, $500,000, taken out 8 months ago. The insured party is you. The beneficiary is Stephanie. I stared at the policy. My signature was at the bottom of the application, except I had never signed it. I had never even seen this document before. That is insurance fraud, I said. That signature is forged. Thomas nodded. I had it analyzed by a handwriting expert. It is a very good forgery, but it is definitely not your signature. The pressure points are wrong. The letter formation is slightly off. He pulled out more documents. Your sister has been busy. She convinced your parents to make her the executor so she controls everything when they pass. She took out a life insurance policy on you so she profits if something happens to you. And there is more. Thomas showed me browser history from Stephanie's laptop. He had obtained it through methods I probably did not want to know about. The searches were chilling. How to stage an accidental death. Can carbon monoxide poisoning be detected? What does drowning look like? Untraceable poisons. Making a car accident look natural. I could not breathe. My sister was not just stealing from me. She was researching ways to kill me. Thomas put a hand on my shoulder. I know this is overwhelming, but we need to take this to the police immediately. This is beyond financial fraud now. This is conspiracy to commit murder. We went to Detective Morrison that same day. She looked through all the evidence Thomas had compiled. Her expression grew darker with each page. This is serious, she said. The life insurance policy with the forged signature is clear fraud. The browser history is concerning. But here is the problem. Your sister can claim the browser searches were for a novel she is writing or research for work. The insurance policy, she will say you knew about it and are now claiming fraud to get out of debt. Without a clear confession or catching her in the act of attempting harm, I can arrest her for the insurance fraud, but the other charges will be harder to make stick. What do we do? I asked. James Parker leaned forward. We create a situation where she incriminates herself. We set a trap. Over the next 2 hours, we developed a plan. My attorney would send a formal letter to Stephanie's lawyer proposing a settlement. I would offer to drop all fraud claims and sign away my entire inheritance in exchange for Stephanie agreeing to take over all the debt she had created. For her, it would look like total victory. She gets the money, the parents' approval, everything, and I go away quietly. The hope was that she would be so confident, so certain she had won, that she would let her guard slip, maybe brag about what she had done, maybe admit to creating the fake evidence. And I would be wearing a wire to record everything. There is one problem, Detective Morrison said. You are under a restraining order. You cannot contact your sister or be near her without getting arrested. James smiled. But if she initiates contact with him, the restraining order does not apply to that specific interaction. If she calls him to discuss the settlement, he is legally allowed to meet with her. It was risky. If the plan failed, I would lose everything. My inheritance, my reputation, any chance of proving the truth. But if it worked, I might finally get justice. James sent the settlement letter 3 days later. It was carefully worded to sound like I was broken and desperate, willing to give up everything just to make the nightmare stop. We waited. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the 4th day, my phone rang. Stephanie's name appeared on the screen. I answered, my hand shaking. Hello? Her voice was calm, businesslike. Let us meet and discuss this settlement. Tomorrow, noon. The coffee shop on Main Street, in downtown Hartford. I will be there, I said. After I hung up, I looked at James and Thomas and Detective Morrison. They had all been listening on speakerphone. She took the bait, James said. Now we see if she is as arrogant as I think she is. That night I could not eat, could not sleep. Everything depended on tomorrow. If Stephanie admitted what she had done, I had a chance. If she stayed careful, stayed in control, I would lose everything. I thought about Caroline Hughes's warning. She is more dangerous than you realize. Tomorrow I would find out just how dangerous my sister really was. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. James and Thomas were already there, sitting at separate tables, pretending not to know me. Detective Morrison was parked outside in an unmarked car. I wore a wire hidden in my jacket button. The recording device was in my pocket. At exactly noon, Stephanie walked in. But she was not alone. 2 police officers followed her through the door. Then her lawyer, Richard Pemberton, a man in an expensive suit with slicked back hair, and Greg, looking nervous and uncomfortable. My heart sank. This was not going the way we planned. Stephanie's face was cold as she approached my table. You violated the restraining order by calling me. I never called you, I said. You called me. To discuss the settlement. Richard stepped forward. My client received threatening voicemails from you yesterday. We have recordings. You violated the terms of the restraining order. These officers are here to arrest you. One of the officers, a heavy-set man with a mustache, held up his phone. He played an audio recording. It was my voice, leaving threatening messages, saying I would make Stephanie pay, that I would destroy her life, but I never made those calls. The voice was mine, but slightly off. The tone was wrong. Some of the phrasing was not quite how I speak. James stood up from his table, revealing himself. Officers, before you make any arrests, you should know my client has evidence of extensive fraud and identity theft committed by Miss Harrington. Richard scoffed. More baseless accusations. This is harassment. My client has been tormented by her brother for months. The other officer, a younger woman with sharp eyes, looked uncertain. What kind of evidence? James pulled out a folder. Forged life insurance documents. Fabricated bank statements, used to manipulate their elderly parents. Browser history showing research into methods of harming her brother. And testimony from another victim who your client defrauded in an identical manner 4 years ago. Thomas stood up too, holding his own folder of documentation. Richard's expression flickered with something. Concern, maybe, but he recovered quickly. This is all circumstantial, inadmissible, and it does not change the fact that your client violated a restraining order. The heavy-set officer reached for his handcuffs. Sir, I need you to come with us. That was when I made a decision. I looked directly at Greg. Greg, you do not have to go down with her. You have 2 kids, Emma and Jackson. Do you want them visiting you in federal prison? Because that is where this is heading. Wire fraud, insurance fraud, identity theft. These are federal crimes. Greg's face went pale. Stephanie grabbed his arm hard. Don't say anything. Don't listen to him. But I kept talking. I know you helped her. I know you created the fake text messages. You have computer skills. You work in IT. It would be easy for you. I know you co-signed on some of the fraudulent loans. But you are not the mastermind here. She is. If you cooperate now, the U.S. Attorney's Office might be willing to make a deal, James added, his voice confident. The first person to cooperate gets the best deal. That is how it always works. Right now, you are looking at the same charges she is. But if you talk first, you might walk away with probation instead of prison time. Greg looked at Stephanie, then at his hands. He was shaking visibly. Stephanie's voice was sharp. Greg, do not say one word. We have a lawyer. Let Richard handle this. But Greg pulled his arm away from her. I want to talk to a lawyer. My own lawyer. Not hers. Richard tried to intervene. Mr. Harrington, as your wife's attorney, I must advise you to remain silent until we can discuss this privately. Greg ignored him. He looked at the officers. I have information about fraud, identity theft, forged documents. I want immunity in exchange for cooperation. Stephanie's composure cracked. Her face twisted with rage. You weak, pathetic coward. After everything I have done for you. That was when everything unraveled. Greg started talking. Right there in the coffee shop. Words tumbling out in a rush. He admitted Stephanie had cloned my phone when I gave her my old device. She used the messaging app to create fake conversations. He helped her perfect the forgeries because he worked with software. They had opened credit cards in my name, using information Stephanie had access to as family. She knew my social security number, my birth date, my mother's maiden name, all the security questions. Stephanie tried to leave. The female officer stopped her. Ma'am, you need to stay here. Greg kept talking. He admitted Stephanie had used AI voice synthesis to create those threatening voicemails. She had recorded me at family dinners over the years. She had enough voice samples to create realistic fakes. He admitted she had forged my signature on the life insurance policy, that she had been manipulating our parents' will by showing them fake evidence of my supposed problems. Then he said something that made the entire coffee shop go silent. There were others before Blair. A woman named Caroline, another business partner named Amanda Phillips, a former boyfriend named Justin Crawford. Stephanie has been doing this for years. Every time someone gets close to exposing her, she destroys them and moves on. Richard Pemberton looked horrified. He stood up abruptly. I am withdrawing as counsel effective immediately. I was not informed of the extent of these allegations. I cannot represent you under these circumstances. Detective Morrison entered the coffee shop. She had been listening on the wire from her car outside. She walked straight to Stephanie. Miss Harrington, you are under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As the handcuffs clicked around Stephanie's wrists, she looked at me with pure hatred. You are still ruined. Your credit is destroyed. Your fiancé left you. Your family hates you. Your career is over. Even if I go to jail, you have lost everything that mattered to you. I looked at her calmly. Maybe. But everyone will finally know the truth. She was led out of the coffee shop in handcuffs. Greg was taken for questioning. The other patrons were recording everything on their phones. Within 2 hours, the story was on local news. Woman arrested for defrauding brother. The report included details about Caroline Hughes and the other victims. My name was mentioned, but this time as the victim, not the perpetrator. My phone exploded with notifications. Texts from coworkers, emails from extended family, a voicemail from mom and dad, their voices broken and apologetic. Amanda called. She was crying. Blair, I am so sorry. I should have believed you from the start. I should have trusted you. Can we talk? Please. James put a hand on my shoulder. You did it. You proved your innocence. But as I sat there in that coffee shop, surrounded by evidence folders and legal documents, I felt empty. Stephanie was right about one thing. I had proven the truth, but the damage was already done. My credit was still destroyed. My relationship was fractured. My family bonds were broken. My career was in limbo. I had won the battle, but I had lost so much along the way. 3 days after Stephanie's arrest, I met my parents at a park bench by the Connecticut River. The same bench where Dad used to take me fishing when I was 8 years old, back when family felt simple and safe. Martha and Donald looked like they had aged a decade. Mom's eyes were red and swollen. Dad's hands shook as he tried to hold his coffee cup. We sat in silence for a long time. The river flowed past us, indifferent to our pain. Finally, Dad spoke. We were completely deceived. Stephanie showed us bank statements, credit reports, emails. Everything pointed to you having serious problems. She said you were gambling, that you were in denial, that confronting you would only make things worse. Mom's voice cracked. She said we needed to protect you from yourself, that changing the will was for your own good, that you would thank us someday when you got help. I listened without interrupting. Let them say everything they needed to say. Martha reached for my hand. How did we not see it? How did we not know what she was doing? Because she is good at this, I said. She has been practicing for years. Caroline was not her first victim. I was not even her second or third. She knows how to manipulate people, how to make herself look like the concerned sister while painting her victim as unstable. Donald set down his coffee. His hands were still shaking. I am stepping down as managing partner of the firm, effective immediately. I am putting you in charge. I shook my head. Dad, I do not want the firm. Not like this. Not like this, he agreed. But you have earned it. You have been carrying that business for the past 3 years, bringing in major clients, managing complex accounts. And I suspended you when you needed support most. Let me do this one thing right. We talked for over an hour. About trust and betrayal. About how easily we believe the people we love. About how hard it is to see clearly when emotions cloud our judgment. They could not undo what had been done. They could not give me back the months of isolation and doubt. But they were trying. That had to count for something. Over the next 3 months, the legal system slowly worked through Stephanie's case. James kept me updated on every development. The U.S. Attorney's Office uncovered 2 additional victims beyond Caroline Hughes. A former college roommate, Stephanie, had defrauded of $12,000. A co-worker she had stolen from at her previous job. The pattern was consistent. She targeted people who trusted her, exploited them systematically, then discarded them when they got too close to the truth. Greg's cooperation earned him a plea deal, 3 years probation and mandatory restitution payments. He had to testify against Stephanie in every proceeding. Stephanie herself faced 14 federal counts. Her lawyer tried to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. In the end, she pled guilty to avoid a trial. The judge sentenced her to 6 years in federal prison. At the sentencing hearing, I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I stood at the podium and looked at my sister. She stared straight ahead, refusing to meet my eyes. I told the court about the financial damage, the emotional toll, the relationships that were fractured, the trust that was broken. But I also said something that surprised even me. I forgive you, Stephanie. Not because what you did was okay, but because carrying hatred will only hurt me more. I hope that in prison you get the help you clearly need. She did not react, did not acknowledge my words at all, but I meant them. Forgiveness was not for her benefit, it was for mine. The credit card companies wiped my fraudulent debts once the criminal conviction was finalized. Banks are insured against fraud. They absorbed the losses. My credit score began the slow process of recovery. The credit monitoring service told me it would take about 3 years to fully restore my score to where it had been. Mom and Dad changed their will back to an equal split. But they did something else too. They established a trust fund with $50,000 to help me recover financially. Dad also gave me a substantial bonus at work. Back pay for all the years you carried this family without us noticing. The firm thrived under my leadership. I discovered I was good at managing people and making strategic decisions. We brought in 4 major new clients in the first quarter. Revenue increased by 32%. Amanda and I went to couples counseling. It was hard. There were sessions where we both cried, where we argued about trust and communication, where we had to face uncomfortable truths about our relationship. After 4 months of therapy, Amanda moved back into our apartment. She apologized for doubting me, for not believing me when I needed her most. I apologized for not being more open with her from the start, for keeping the financial issues with my family private, instead of making her a full partner in handling them. We decided to postpone the house hunt for a year, give my credit time to recover, give our relationship time to heal. There was no rush. We had the rest of our lives. Caroline Hughes and I became friends. She introduced me to a support group for fraud victims. I was shocked by how many people had similar stories. Family members who stole identities, trusted friends who ran scams. The emotional damage was often worse than the financial loss. I started volunteering with a nonprofit that helped people recover from identity theft. My story became known in the financial community. I was invited to speak at a conference about family financial abuse. The room was packed. Afterward, dozens of people came up to share their own stories. I wrote an article for a financial magazine about my experience. It went viral online. My inbox filled with messages from people who had been through similar situations, people who felt alone and blamed, people who needed to know they were not crazy, that the manipulation was real. The response was overwhelming. I realized there was a need for more resources, more awareness, more support for people navigating family financial abuse. 6 months after Stephanie's sentencing, Martha invited me and Amanda to Sunday dinner. Just the four of us. No extended family, no drama, just a quiet meal together. Mom made pot roast, my favorite since childhood. We sat around the same table where this whole nightmare had started. The table felt emptier without Stephanie and Greg, but it also felt peaceful. After dinner, Dad cleared his throat. "Blair, there is something your mother and I need to say." I braced myself, unsure what was coming. Dad continued, his voice thick with emotion. "You have always been the provider for this family, not Stephanie. You. We were too blind to see it." Mom reached across the table and took my hand. "You paid our mortgage when we were struggling. You covered medical bills without being asked. You helped your sister even when she was stealing from you. You kept this family together, and we gave her all the credit because she was louder about it, more visible. We are so sorry." Donald's eyes were wet. True provision is not about money. It is about character. It is about showing up even when people do not appreciate it. That is what you did. That is who you are. Martha's voice shook. "Can you forgive us?" I thought about forgiveness, how it was not the same as forgetting, how it did not mean pretending nothing had happened, but it did mean choosing to move forward instead of staying stuck in the past. "I am working on it," I said honestly. "I cannot promise things will be exactly like they were before, but I can promise I will not walk away from you. We will figure this out together." Amanda squeezed my hand under the table. It was not a perfect resolution. The scars would always be there. But it was a beginning, a foundation to rebuild on. That night, driving home with Amanda beside me, I thought about everything I had been through. The betrayal, the isolation, the moment I thought I had lost everything. Amanda asked what I was thinking. "I am thinking that Stephanie took a lot from me. My money, my credit, my peace of mind. She almost took my future with you, but she did not take who I am." Amanda smiled. "You are stronger than she ever was." I shook my head. "I do not know about stronger, but I am still here. I survived, and that matters." The road ahead was not going to be easy. Rebuilding credit takes years. Healing trust takes even longer. Some relationships might never fully recover. But I learned something crucial through all of this. Real strength is not about being invulnerable. It is about being knocked down and choosing to stand back up. It is about being betrayed and choosing to stay open to love anyway. It is about losing almost everything and discovering you still have yourself. 6 months later, Amanda and I got married in a small ceremony at a vineyard overlooking the Connecticut River. Mom and Dad walked me down the aisle together. Caroline Hughes was there, along with friends from the fraud survivors group. There was an empty chair where Stephanie would have Saturday. No one mentioned it, but everyone saw it. A reminder of what was lost, what was broken, what would never be exactly the same. But as I stood at that altar, looking at Amanda in her dress, tears streaming down both our faces, I realized something profound. Sometimes losing everything shows you what actually matters. The provider is not the one who takes credit or demands applause. The provider is the one who shows up quietly, who stands firm when everything is falling apart, who keeps going even when it costs them everything. I had always been that person. I just needed the world to finally see it. And now they did. True character is not revealed in moments of praise and recognition. It is revealed in how you respond when you are falsely accused, abandoned, and stripped of everything you built. The people who matter most are not the ones who applaud loudest at Sunday dinners. They are the ones who stand beside you when standing beside you costs them something. My sister tried to destroy me. She came close, but she could not take away my integrity. She could not change who I fundamentally was. And in the end, that made all the difference. I learned that family is not just defined by blood. It is defined by who shows up when the applause stops and the real work begins. It is defined by who believes you when believing you is hard. It is defined by who stays when staying requires sacrifice. Amanda stayed. Caroline reached out. James fought for me. Thomas uncovered the truth. Detective Morrison listened when others would not. These people, some of them strangers when my nightmare began, became my real family. The greatest victory was not proving others wrong. It was proving to myself that I could withstand the worst and still choose integrity. Still choose to be decent. Still choose to keep my heart open to love and trust even after betrayal. That is the lesson I carry with me now. Not that people will always believe you. Not that justice always comes quickly. But that your character is yours to keep, no matter what anyone tries to take from you. Stephanie sits in a federal prison cell now. She will be there for years. I do not hate her. I pity her. She destroyed so many lives, including her own, chasing money and validation. She had a brother who loved her, parents who adored her, a husband and children who needed her, and she traded all of it for stolen credit card balances and fraudulent loans. I visit my parents every few weeks now. We are rebuilding slowly. Some Sunday dinners are awkward. Some conversations are difficult. But we are trying. That has to count for something. Amanda and I closed on our first house last month. A small colonial with a yard for the children we hope to have someday. My credit score finally crossed 650. In another year, it will be back to where it should be. The firm is thriving. I hired 2 new junior accountants last quarter. We are expanding into estate planning services, helping families navigate complex financial relationships, helping them avoid the mistakes my family made. Every day I get emails from people who read my article or heard my story. People who thought they were alone in their experiences. People who needed to know that family financial abuse is real. It is devastating, and it is not their fault. I answer every email. I share resources. I listen. Sometimes that is all people need, to be heard, to be believed, to know they are not crazy. This journey taught me that the truth does not always win quickly. Sometimes it takes months or years. Sometimes you have to fight for it with everything you have. Sometimes you have to lose almost everything before people finally see clearly. But the truth is worth fighting for. Your integrity is worth protecting. Your character is worth preserving. Because in the end, when everything else is stripped away, that is all you really have. Who you are when no one is watching. How you act when acting with integrity costs you everything. What you choose when choosing right means choosing to suffer. I chose to keep fighting for the truth, even when fighting seemed hopeless. I chose to maintain my integrity, even when lying would have been easier. I chose to stay open to love, even when love had betrayed me. And those choices, more than any vindication or apology, are what I am most proud of. So here is what I want you to take from my story. If you are facing something similar, if someone you trust has betrayed you, if your family has turned against you, do not give up. Document everything. Seek help. Find people who believe you. Keep fighting for the truth. It will not be easy. It will hurt. You will lose things and people you thought you could never live without. But you will survive. And on the other side of that survival, you will discover a strength you never knew you had. A clarity about what truly matters. A deeper understanding of love, trust, and family. You will discover that you are enough. That your truth has value. That your character cannot be taken from you, only surrendered. And you will never surrender it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to fight to prove your innocence when everyone believed a lie? Have you experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you get through it? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is struggling right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories about family, betrayal, and redemption. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that they are not alone, that family financial abuse is real, and that the truth is worth fighting for. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for believing me when so many others did not. Thank you for being part of this community where we support each other through the hardest moments of our lives. I wish you courage to face your own battles. I wish you people who believe you when believing is hard. I wish you the strength to keep standing up, no matter how many times life knocks you down. Stay strong. Keep fighting. The truth always matters, even when no one else can see it yet.